Mark and Linda had been married for over 25 years. They had built a life together, raising 2 children, working hard to create a stable home, and navigating the ups and downs of marriage. Now in their early 50s, they found themselves at a crossroads, one they had never imagined would cause so much tension between them. Their 2 children, Jason and Emily, had grown up and moved away. Jason, the eldest, had settled in New York with his wife and young daughter. Emily had chosen a quieter life in Seattle, where she worked as a graphic designer. Mark and Linda still lived in their suburban home in Texas, the house where they had raised their family. One evening, as they sat in their cozy living room, Linda brought up a subject that had been on her mind for months. "Mark, I've been thinking, I really want to move to New York, or at least somewhere closer to Jason and Emily," she said gently. Mark looked up from his newspaper, startled. "Move? Linda, we've lived here for decades. This is our home." "I know," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "But Jason has a young daughter now, our granddaughter Mark, and Emily is all the way across the country. We barely see them. I don't want to be the kind of parents who only visit on holidays. I want to be part of their lives." Mark sighed and put his newspaper down. "I understand that, Linda, but I love it here. My friends are here. My work is here. I don't want to start over in some crowded city." Linda's face fell. She had expected resistance, but not this much. "It wouldn't be starting over. It would be a new chapter. We're getting older, Mark. Shouldn't we be near our family?" Mark ran a hand through his graying hair. "I don't know, Linda. I just don't see the point in uprooting everything. We worked so hard to make this house our home." The conversation ended in silence, but the issue remained unresolved. Over the next few weeks, the tension between them grew. Linda spent hours on the phone with Jason and Emily, discussing the possibility of moving. Mark, on the other hand, avoided the topic entirely. He busied himself with golf games, home repairs, and long coffee breaks with his old friends. One evening, Linda confronted him again. "Mark, I can't keep pretending this isn't important to me. I feel like you're ignoring how much this means." Mark sighed. "And I feel like you're ignoring how much I love our life here." Linda's voice softened. "I'm not trying to take anything away from you, but I feel like we're drifting apart, Mark. We don't have the kids at home anymore. We need something to bring us together, not keep us stuck in the past." Mark looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time he saw the sadness in her eyes. A few days later, Linda made a bold suggestion. "What if I go to New York for a few months, just to see how it feels? Maybe you can visit, and we can decide from there." Mark hesitated. The idea of being apart scared him, but he also saw that Linda was serious about this. "If that's what you need, Linda, I won't stop you," he finally said. And so, for the first time in 25 years, they lived apart. In New York, Linda felt alive. She spent time with Jason's family, got to know her granddaughter, and even explored volunteer work at a local library. For the first time in years, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Mark, back in Texas, felt lost. At first, he enjoyed the quiet, watching his favorite TV shows, golfing, and having dinner whenever he pleased. But soon, the house felt emptier than he had expected. He missed Linda's laughter, her presence, even the way she nagged him about fixing the leaky faucet. One evening, Mark received a call from Jason. "Dad, I know you love Texas, but Mom seems really happy here. I think you'd like it too if you gave it a chance." Mark sighed. I don't know, Jason. I just never pictured myself anywhere else. I get it, Jason said, but life changes, Dad, and maybe you and Mom need to change together. Mark thought about that for a long time. A month later, Mark booked a flight to New York. He told himself it was just a visit, but deep down, he knew he was going to see if there was a future for them there. When he arrived, Linda met him at the airport, her face glowing with happiness. Mark, she said, hugging him tightly. I've missed you. I've missed you too, he admitted. That weekend, they walked through Central Park, had dinner with Jason's family, and even took a train to visit Emily in Seattle. Mark saw the joy in Linda's eyes, the way she lit up around their children and granddaughter. And slowly he began to understand. One evening, as they sat on a park bench, Mark reached for Linda's hand. Maybe we don't have to move permanently, he said. But what if we spent half the year here, half in Texas? That way, we get the best of both worlds. Linda smiled, squeezing his hand. I'd love that, Mark. And just like that, they found their middle ground. Not by holding on to the past, but by embracing the future together. As Linda thrived in New York, Mark began to feel lost in Texas. Without his wife by his side, he realized how much of his identity had been built around their shared life. He found himself questioning what he wanted from the next stage of his life. Did he truly love Texas, or had it just been comfortable? Was he holding on to routine out of fear of change? These thoughts kept him up at night, forcing him to confront feelings he had long ignored. One evening, as he sat alone on their back porch, he called his old friend Robert. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, Rob, he admitted. I thought I loved this life, but now I just feel stuck. Robert chuckled. Mark, I've known you for 30 years. You're not afraid of change. You just don't like admitting when it's time to make one. Mark hung up the phone and stared at the stars. Maybe Robert was right. Despite feeling happy in New York, Linda also had her doubts. What if Mark never wanted to move? What if she ended up spending her later years in a long-distance marriage? One evening, while babysitting her granddaughter, she watched Jason and his wife preparing dinner together, laughing as they cooked. It reminded her of how she and Mark used to be. She suddenly felt a lump in her throat. That night, she called Mark. I need to know if we're going to figure this out together. I don't want to lose you, but I also can't live my life waiting for you to make a decision. Her words struck Mark hard. He had always thought they had more time to figure things out. But now he realized time wasn't endless. When Mark finally visited New York, he expected to feel out of place. But to his surprise, he found himself enjoying the city. He played with his granddaughter in the park, had long talks with Jason, and even helped Emily set up a new art studio over video calls. One afternoon, as he sat in a coffee shop, he watched an elderly couple laughing together, sharing a single pastry between them. He realized that no matter where he lived, the most important thing was being with Linda. That night he told her, "You were right, Linda. I don't want to just visit our kids. I want to be a part of their lives." Linda's eyes welled up. "So, what does that mean?" Mark took her hand. "It means I'm ready for a change. Let's do this together." A few months later, Mark and Linda sold their house in Texas. But instead of settling permanently in New York, they found a compromise, spending summers near Jason and winters in a small home near Emily in Seattle. Mark even picked up a part-time job at a golf course in Seattle. While Linda volunteered at a community center in New York, they embraced their new routine, cherishing their time with family. One evening, as they sat on their new porch watching the sunset, Mark looked at Linda and smiled. "You know, I thought moving would feel like losing everything, but really, it's just a new adventure." Linda squeezed his hand. "As long as we're together, that's all that matters." And with that, they embarked on the next chapter of their lives, not tied to a single place, but bound by the love that had carried them through decades of marriage.